live and direct. Go!
This is Guest List Plus One, live.
You're listening to Guest List Plus One, live, where music meets technology in Web3. Join us and explore how we can change music.
Hey everybody, welcome to Guest List Plus One, the podcast. I'm your host, AntLaRock.
And I'm your host, Spencer Zabiela, and we are bringing you right to the intersection of music, technology, and culture.
Spencer, we have a preamble. We want to just give a definition of the word technology to lead this conversation off.
Absolutely. Technology is a capability given by the practical application of knowledge.
You know, nerd shit.
Nerd shit. All right, let's go. So, on this week's episode, we're sitting down with someone who's been in the game for a super, super long time, crossed over many different genres, but is an iconic dance guy. Never afraid to innovate. One of Anthony's closest friends.
And the guy that told Spencer not to start a recording studio 8 years ago.
Should have listened. Should have listened.
So everybody, please welcome a personal friend, hero, inspiration, Michael Moog.
All right.
Don't be too excited, man.
We met with Roland Clark last week. He's going to be coming out on a future podcast, and he said something about you that I thought was like really poignant. And one thing I felt since we've met is you're never afraid to live in the future. So technology's been a big part of like what you do.
Yeah, Moog, we first met at Key & Needle, which was my recording studio in Brooklyn. Actually, you were around the building before Key & Needle, and when we first were moving in, you told me to run as fast as I could in the opposite direction because you had opened up many recording studios, and you were like, fucking no way. I do not want you to be in this.
Good luck. That was crazy.
I'm sure you have a lot of stories to tell. Ant and I are eager to have you on and take us as guests through your journey.
Which one?
Yeah, well, you've lived a lot of lives. You've had a lot of artist names. Spencer was working with Danny Tenaglia in the studio, and he always wanted to sample a reference back to Colombian Drum Cartel. That's one of my favorite alter egos of yours. For the people who don't know, back in the day, I mean, you would have 3 or 4 different artist pseudonyms happening at a time. I guess that'd be a good place to start. Like, what was the story behind having different names? Did it represent like a different style of music? Would you just go sell a record to Nervous and then turn around and go to Gladys and sell like the same record over to Strictly? Like, what was your reasoning behind these different pseudonyms?
Mainly just when you make a record, you know, your name becomes a plus and a hindrance at the same time. So if you make a record that blows up, then everybody knows it. Then the next record that you make, if you make, say, 5 or 10 of those records, now your name becomes an anvil at the same time. Like, for people that love you, it's cool. But if you change the name, then it's, for me, I wanted to base every record I did just on the merit of the record. I want everybody to know it was me because some people don't like, say, Philip Damien's records or whatever. So when you change your name, it's going to be based on the record, period.
Gotcha.
If the record blows up, it's on the record. It has nothing to do with who made the record. So
it was a little bit of freedom for you then.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be able
Every
to stay
time you make
creative.
it, not even freedom. It's like I want everything I do based on the work I do and not about who made the record. Most people want to take advantage of using your name that people know, people are familiar with you. So, oh, it's Michael Moog. But I find sometimes that a lot of people are like, oh, well, he does this kind of record. So they're not even going to be open to the idea of, if it doesn't sound like something you've already done, if it's not that thing they know, they're going to be like, no, chuck it.
Yep. It seems like we're at the exact opposite now. It's like people only want to put records. It doesn't matter if it's a disco record or a techno record. Now people are just like, I'm vintage culture. This is what I'm doing this week. And you're saying for you back then, especially, it was just the opposite. You wanted the music to speak for itself.
Always want to make music to speak for itself. All these groups that do that, like, you get a following, and I guess that's cool. I guess for monetary reasons, it makes sense to keep building your name and more people know your name. But I've never been in this for the money anyway, so.
I mean, you've made some absolutely smash hits. Like, your records are phenomenal. I've always
Wow.
said I'm for real. You always put together these things that are genius, really. This podcast is for builders, and it's for artists, and it's for people that are like trying to, find their way in the music industry, or people that are thinking about getting into the music industry. And I think it'd be great to just start from the beginning and like give us a little context as to like who you are, where you came from, what are your roots,
How long? How much time do we have? That's gonna be
As
like
much time as you
that's
need.
gonna be 10 months. No, dude. It's a long thing. I come from a musical family,
Yeah, there we go.
so yeah. Like if you think about that, my mother went to Juilliard's. Her mother was a musician. My family are all musicians in one sense or other. My oldest brother is a super famous playwright and a poet. My next oldest brother, who was a super multi-instrumentalist, he died like in 97, but he played everything, every genre. The house I grew up in had like maybe, it was 7 of us living in the same house at the same time, and 7 different radios, 7 different radio stations, all kinds of music going on. My other brother, Calvin, produced like all kinds of shit. Destiny's Child, Grammys for Temptations, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it goes on. But he's a really successful kind of pop producer, R&B, blah, 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 blah. And me, the music I've done has always been left of everything because I hate super commercial shit.
You do not like the predictable stuff.
No, just like it's boring.
Well, did you get your start more on the pop side, or were you just doing your own thing and then you happen to fall into the pop world? Because earlier part of your story was like you worked with Donnie Wahlberg. I mean, you worked with Cal on some of the Gaga stuff. I mean, you've had a hand in a lot of things that were considered popular music. Like, what came first, dance music or the pop stuff?
No, I was in a band in high school, the 3 days I went to high school. I was in a band, and we were really popular. And the reason I dropped out of school, because we were gigging so much, doing so much work. There was a family group called the Family Wells. Their mom legally pulled them out of school. My grandmother were like, "You're not leaving school," so I dropped out. And
What were you playing in that group?
Drums.
Nice.
Playing drums. We were doing shows opening up for all big super R&B acts like Phyllis Hyman, Stephanie Mills, whatever super group came to town, we were the opening act for all these groups.
And this was, you guys are based out of West Orange, New Jersey, right?
New Jersey, East Orange,
East Orange?
like in the hood, son. And groups that came from East Orange were like Slave, Naughty by Nature, even though Naughty by Nature wasn't even around when we were doing this. Whitney Houston, Young and Company. I mean, I could go on forever. Like every single corner of every block you could walk down hearing bands rehearsing like in their basements, which was fucking cool. Like every block.
Did you get the recording bug at that point, or were you guys?
I already had a kind of a studio at my house from my brother Gordon, who was an insane musician, just had friends that were giving him equipment. Then when there was this guy named Joe Moore in Jersey City who had this first crazy 8-track recording studio we used to record in that everybody in Jersey City was going to. It was a group called Conquest. I think they were signed to Prelude. My brother played on that. Kool and the Gang, like my brothers worked with Amir Bayan, who was the youngest brother of Kool and the Gang, Robert Bell, like all this shit. So like we're around all of that. So I always wanted to record. I wanted to record more than playing out. I was playing out, I guess, because I was bored. Like I do everything based on boredom.
But at that point, you were already playing pretty much every instrument, right?
Kinda, not really, but yes. Because my brother was really dope. I used to ask him to play parts on me. He'd be like, "Fuck you, you play it yourself." And I was like, "Really?" And then after, at least if he saw me trying to play it by myself, like, and then he'll come in and play it. But like, he was always like, "Fuck you, I ain't helping you do shit.
Figure it out yourself.
Figure it out yourself." So that was, and he did that to all of us.
So you continued on with the band for a while, right?
I think 2 or 3 years. And then I was constantly like, let's make a record, let's make a record. I think we tried to make a record or two here and there. I remember that group, The Whispers. We opened up for them once. One of the guys in The Whispers wanted to produce us. And I was like, yeah, this is going to work. That never happened. We had this management company. It's funny, it was 5 managers.
And how many?
5 managers.
That's more than the people in the group,
Yeah,
right?
it was crazy. 5 managers, 2 twins.
Yeah.
But this crew they were boxing promoters, / they worked at City Hall, / they were managers, / they owned this nightclub. They took us to Don King's house to have us perform in front of Don King so we could possibly play some stuff. They took us to Muhammad Ali's training camp in Pennsylvania, where we actually were practicing in one room while Ali was training in another room. Crazy.
So,
Yo,
so I'm gonna make a
Insane.
prediction. I'm gonna make a prediction. What happened? You guys never recorded a record.
never really recorded.
You
That's
got
when I was like, I'm out.
And you probably just got sick of, because like to me with recording, I'm sure Spencer, you felt like this as well too. Like when you play guitar, the moment's gone. Unless you have a guitar sitting there and you're willing to perform in front of somebody, no one could hear the song that you wrote. So that always felt like an inconvenience to me. So I always wanted to get recording as fast as possible because you had a memory, you had a thing you could share with people, right? You had a record you could give to somebody else and like put out. So my prediction on what you did is you got sick of waiting around for everybody else and you started just doing it yourself.
Well, we did a show once, I think it was Newark Symphony Hall. It was Phyllis Hyman, Stephanie Mills, and this group called M2May. M2May actually produced Stephanie Mills, produced Phyllis Hyman, and I said, hey, could I come to the studio one day? It was finally like, okay, great. If you come to the studio, just be quiet. I nagged this guy for like almost 2 years. He produced Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, The Closer I Get to You, and I basically interned and I watched him produce like just all kinds of records in the studio. Just seeing producer make an album. He was the biggest producer, one of the biggest producing teams in the world. Him, it was Reggie Lucas and James M. His engineer at the time was Andy Wallace. Andy Wallace became famous for producing or mixing Jellyfish, Alice in Chains,
Wow.
Nirvana,
Heard of them?
Elliott Smith.
All the,
Anyway,
all
it
the
be-
suicide
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what I was getting
man.
to.
Wow.
It came to be like if Andy Wallace mixed your record, someone in your group was going to fucking die.
I'm gonna say, yeah, like that's,
Yo, it's crazy.
That's a bad omen.
No, it's insane.
Yeah.
But Andy Wallace was M2May's engineer, and I just watched him make records.
So you're surrounded by all these prolific mix engineers and producers, and you're learning, you're interning, you're making music.
After that, I had this guy in our class. His name was John Pounds. Me and John used to go to CBGB's on the Sunday. He went to some recording studio in New York City one day, came back and said, yo, you got to go check this studio out. I went to check the studio out, went there. They had like a little, I think it was a Harrison console. They had a couple synths in there, but it was a huge loft. So I went there and met this guy. The owner, his name was Chris Irwin. They built a studio called Calliope. They were trying to charge $200 an hour. And I told the owner, I was like, nobody's going to pay you $200 an hour for the studio. It's really dope. I said,
Did he say that to you?
Yeah, exactly.
this was in fucking 85.
Right.
It's like, this studio is dope. Nobody's going to pay this amount of money for the studio. I said, but I could get you clients in here like a no-brainer. I said, if I get you clients, could I have that other room? He's like, for what? I said, like, let's make a MIDI room. And he was like, what's that? I'm like, what do you mean, what's that? MIDI. But no one really knew what a MIDI room was at that time. The only real MIDI studio in New York City was Unique Recording. Every record from Shannon to David Bowie to every record on planet Earth was made at Unique Recording Studios.
Just because they had the first like inceptions of like MIDI sync.
They had 2 or 3 SSL rooms. They had the most MIDI room ever on planet Earth. Nice. People like Teddy Riley. Who's the guy from Bring Me a Higher Love?
Higher Love? Oh, Winwood.
Yeah, Steve Winwood. So Unique Recording Studio was the fucking studio. I knew the owners because my brother used to go in there and record with Amir Bayan, Kool and the Gang's youngest brother, with the groups he was working with. So I was in Uniques all the time. He goes, so what do you think? I'm like, well, if I get you clients, could I have that room? Let's make a MIDI room. And I knew there was this thing going on at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. It was called the New Music Seminar. I literally, that day, went back to Jersey where I lived, and I made up these flyers, like $50 an hour, main room, and then $25 an hour for the MIDI room. The MIDI room wasn't even built yet. He didn't buy one stitch of equipment. I took maybe 600 flyers to the Marriott Marquis Hotel. The New Music Conference was founded by Tom Silverman from Tommy Boy Records. I never knew Tom, but I knew Monica Lynch and all the people that worked at Tommy Boy. Yeah. I went up to a seminar, handed out flyers. Not even in 3 days, people started calling the phone. And at this new music seminar, it was like 1985, Will Smith, Jazzy Jeff, like trying to get a deal, Ice-T, Kuma D, everybody in hip-hop was in this fucking Marriott Marquee, like peddling new music, blah, 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 blah. And I just went and got all of them.
And were they more interested in the MIDI room?
No, they were all trying to get signed. But all these artists that were not even yet blown up, who were about to be blown up, were all there. So like within a week, people started calling this guy's studio. I was like, I told you, motherfucker. Within 2 years, that studio was booked out for 3 years in advance.
Damn.
Like literally nobody could get in the studio. So within maybe a few months, 2 or 3 months, we built a MIDI room. Went and got a Mac, some S950s, Super Jupiters. And basically that room, I worked in 24 hours, and whatever the 3 or 4 hours that no one was occupying the room, that's when I went to bed. Me and my brother figured out, let's go get some interns. I think we were the first studio that had interns. Somebody, I think one of the owners like, you need interns. Well, what's that? Oh, just go to college, go get people
free labor.
to come.
You're the reason.
Basically free labor. I was like,
You were like, that exists?
So we went to NYU, we went to Pratt, we went to all these schools, posted up flyers, interns for a recording studio, blah, 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 credited, holy shit. So we basically had a little military style thing up at Calliope of all interns, which most of those interns end up turning out being big, giant producers, engineers.
And is this where you first started to catch your break a little bit with production and like?
Kind of, yeah, because like in the MIDI room, like the MIDI room was $25 an hour. So like you had brand new labels like First Priority. First Priority was, what was that group? Milk, Gizmo.
It's chilling.
Gizmo,
yeah,
chilling.
didn't you and Cal do that
Villain.
record?
Calvin did that record.
Yeah.
Calvin programmed that record.
MC Amon.
MC Light.
Yep.
You know, I mean, shit. Emergency Records. Paul Simpson and Winston Jones were producing all these house records. So I started programming on house records, hip hop records, and basically the main room was open 24 hours a day, and the B room was basically open 24 hours a day, like literally a factory. The engineers in the main room was Bob Powers, Bob Coulter, Ted Sabady, all these engineers on the come up. Obviously, Bob Powers got famous from working with Tribe. Tribe did their first record there. De La Soul did their first record there. What was the movement that started all this shit with Baby Bam, Jungle Brothers?
Yeah, the Native Tongues.
Native Tongues.
Yeah.
They did their first records there. All this shit. Everybody was making these records at Calliope.
So you had Queen Latifah coming by.
All of them.
Yeah.
Everybody. You name drop any record that was made from 85 to like 89 and 90, all at Calliope.
I'm actually super interested in this evolution of technology by means of a cheaper room. If you think about it, a lot of these records were made based off of, you know, a significant budget difference.
Of course. I mean, yeah, it was everybody can afford it.
And you sort of pioneered and were probably largely responsible for a lot of these records being made because of the creation of that MIDI room, right?
My invisible joke to the world is that me, my brother Calvin, Seven Fisher, who, you know, Seven Fisher, house guy, you know, my childhood friend, my engineer, who I hired this guy we were looking for engineers. This guy is named Jonathan Davis, who I changed his name to Johnny the Most. I used to call him the Most. He came in for an interview, lying through his teeth that he knew this equipment, he knew that. I was like, he's fucking lying, but let's hire him. He ended up being one of the biggest mix engineers in the world. But my whole thing was like, nothing's going to happen if people can't afford to come in the studio. It's just simple. So I could definitely say that I'm part of hip-hop culture, hip-hop history. And all these people, Prince Paul's, all these groups know exactly who I am, you know, what I did for that culture. It's not anything, but I basically, and I didn't build the studio, but I brought people in that building, and I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and you also you facilitated this more accessible
Of
music
course.
production culture through that studio. Let me, just for the folks that are listening that don't know a ton about music production, how much different is the speed at which you can produce records in a live recorded setting versus having that MIDI room?
Well, the big room, the Calliope was dope because it was like a penthouse in the sky. So there was a bathroom, and the bathroom, like we would go in there and get all kinds of drum sounds. There was a tile bathroom. Like I had drum sounds called tile snare, toms, blah, 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 blah. The drum booth was over that.
Did you make the gate verb snare?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, a lot of shit went down in Calliope. A lot of samples were made in there. But the tile bathroom, like people would go cut vocals in there. Then we had a drum booth. People go cut dry vocals up there. The room was fucking banging. Bob Coulter recorded all of De La Soul's first album. Stetsasonic is the one that brought De La Soul there. It was insane. I knew M2May, so I told M2May about this studio. He produced Levert's album in there. Like, it just became a breeding ground. And it was dope, and it was fly as fuck. It was penthouse. It was like everything that a normal studio was not. And we had a balcony that wrapped around the whole thing. And I would go sit on the balcony and just look down on 8th Avenue at night. We knew all the crackheads. We knew all the drug dealers on the corners. We knew all the hookers by name. From 34th Street to 42nd Street, there were no lights on 8th Avenue. So the only lights you could see was Madison Square Garden and 42nd Street.
Damn.
Wow.
You know, all the people that were spending no money were going in program room and making fucking records. There was this engineer at the studio called Dan Miller. He was friends of Bob Coulter. Dan Miller had this group called Miller and Sloan.
Sounds like the worst law firm I've ever heard of.
Yo, Miller and Sloan, but they were dope.
Divorce now.
Yo, they were
1-800.
They were fucking dope. Dan Miller just so happened to also be one of the biggest nerds in the universe. And also this engineer named Ted Sabity. Ted Sabity worked at Columbia University building fucking bombs down in the basement of Columbia University. I'm not even joking.
So I think what Spencer was trying to allude to was the fact that, like, the technological, like, innovation that you had in the MIDI room was something different, something special, but everything that you had there was new. Like, the 106 was new, the Voyatra was new, like, the S950 or the S900s by Akai were, like, new. Like, this was all
new.
bleeding
like
edge
the
at
MIDI
this
room
point.
was brand new because, like, when he finally said, let's go do it, we just went to the store and I just got everything that was brand new.
Because before that, in the recording industry, you had pianos and maybe a Moog synthesizer, but then it was drums and bass. And, like, if you wanted to do, like, that synth bass sound, most people were just doubling up the bass line, and they'd sit there and they'd play it endlessly until they got it right. You know what I mean? It wasn't about being programmed at
All
that point.
Calliope had that was, as far as sampling, SP12, the S900. Yeah, I mean, I think the only music program out then was Opcode, Studio Vision.
Damn.
That was the only, because then I think the next real sequencer we got was a Lin 9000 rack mount sequencer. That was the real sequencer in the MIDI room, which is scary, by the way, because, like, we were learning this equipment, like, in, like, matter of days to get the room running, fake it till you make it, like, build the room, and programming. It's crazy. I have no clue of how we learned all this equipment.
So let's cover the history of that, like, real briefly. We had MIDI, which is a musical instrument digital interface. And that was created by Roger Lynn.
No, MIDI was created by Roland and Dave Smith. They were talking forever. We need to somehow get a way for these things to speak to each other. Because before that was just CV.
Yeah, and it was just sending small electrical pulses to things.
You know.
This technological wave has always been part of your story, right? Like, pre that, you just had to be good at playing drums.
Instruments.
You had to be good at playing bass or hitting the chords on the one, right? And that's like what the disconnect is now, especially for modern production. Think about, like, my journey. MIDI's always existed. It was always easy to open up a piece of software. Cakewalk, Vegas Pro, Pro Tools, 25 years ago, Pro Audio, right?
Yeah,
and
when we started that room, it was literally MIDI just started kicking in. And the only room was Unique Recording. So everyone else in the world was just figuring this shit out.
So when did you finally walk out of that studio, or when did you actually create something in that studio where you felt like, all right, I'm doing some different shit. Let me utilize what I've learned from this technology.
I was programming for, like, say, Paul Simpson, Winston Jones. The first record I did with them is now one of the biggest classic house records of all time ever. It's called Mafumbe by Cultural Vibe. So I played all that on there, programmed that, I guess, in the Lin 9000 rack mount, using like a SP12. A lot of those club records and early rap records were made in the programming room, in the MIDI room. And then that's when I was kind of leaving Calliope because they refused to get an SSL. Cause I was like, yo, bro, we're like, the room is booked out. Like,
Get something
fuck are we
a little
doing?
bit. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's time to ramp up. The owners didn't want to ramp up. I was like, fuck you, I'm out of here. And then that's when I met Mike Maneri from Steps Ahead, right around the corner on 30th Street on the music building. He was building a studio. He said, come over here. He built me a programming room in his recording studio. And in that room, I was starting to produce my own things. And then right around it, my brother Calvin was managed by this manager named Dick Scott. At the time, Dick Scott was working with Maurice Johnson. Maurice Johnson, Pac Jam, New Edition. I mean, Maurice was from Boston. I somehow end up meeting Dick, bringing this group up to him. Me and him started a production company. We signed this group, Anastasia and Kim. I end up being in the right place at the right time. Maurice was asked to produce this artist named Tiffany, her second album. It was Tiffany that gave New Kids on the Block an opening slot because no one would really give them an opening slot. She liked them. She gave them an opening slot so they could open on her tour. Within 4 or 5 months, she got kicked off her own tour because her fans became rabid dogs and all started booing her, throwing bottles at her because they want New Kids.
Was this the mall tour? Or this is after Tiffany's mall tour?
No, this is when she was doing arenas. So Tiffany basically gave New Kids a platform to explode. New Kids' first album, I think they were about to get dropped off of CBS. Like literally, like the shit ain't working. Shit with kids, it like they were already basically getting thrown off the label. The ink wasn't even dry yet. Like in a matter of weeks, just started ramping up. This is like 1989. So I was there like during that whole thing. I used to work at Radio City Music Hall during the time that I worked at Calliope too.
What was the first single, Step by Step?
No, that was their second album.
Oh, really?
That was their third album.
Really?
Hangin' Tough was the second album. Hangin' Tough was the album that blew up.
Okay.
Please Don't Girl Girl was the first single off that album, which they shot that video at CBGB's. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I was watching all of this shit. I was working, from 4 to 11 at night at Radio City, and then straight to the studio from, 12 till the next day till I had to go to work, again at Radio City Music Hall. As far as Tiffany was concerned, right place at the right time. They wanted, because now New Kids are exploding. Now MCA, like she helped blow your kids up. Now we need you to get Maurice to produce her. Maurice did not have the time. He only could commit to 2 records. I just so happened to be in the right place at the right time. And Dick Scott was like, you want to work with Tiffany? I'm like, huh? Go, Tiffany's a producer. Like, do you want to produce this album? I'm like, sure. Like, could I meet her? Met her. She was like totally down to do stuff. And I just got thrown into this thing. Like from producing, from programming. Oh, and also when I was at Calliope, I was doing my own first record.
Which was?
I was going on to name Marquis Desaad because my manager at the time, his name was Donnie Linton. He started managing me. He's like, you need to make a record. He was trying to get labels to see me, and all labels were like, he's kind of like on some print shit. Can you do some print shit? No, I want to do my own thing. What is your thing? I was like, I don't know, but I want to do my own thing. I did a record. He signed me to a label called Sutra, which another super heyday, one of those hit maker records, a guy named Sid Maurer, nicest guy ever. I did a deal with him. That record didn't do shit, but I was starting to think about making my own music. And then that's when the New Kids thing kind of came. I mean, dude, it was a lot of shit going on. I want to say that the reason it took me so long to ever do anything, really, because I just always had my hands in a million things. You do a million things, and like nothing's really going to happen. I wasn't really focused on one thing. And musically, I've never been focused on one thing. I don't want to do one thing. I've always I like doing all of these things.
Yeah.
So really my first thing into like the first thing big would be doing Tiffany's album, which flopped. I mean,
But in all of this over the years, and we see it today with your magic purple case that you've built out for your live performance that you're working on, right? You've always used gear or technology in ways that are, I think, a little bit obsessive and a little bit beyond what the average musician is willing to, what their threshold is for that.
kind of in front of things. Like I
Yeah.
always was looking for that next thing. I don't know why, because like the next thing always involves you having to learn the next thing. I was never good at learning the next thing. Like I wanted the next thing, but the learning curve for learning new equipment always made me angry. Still does to this day.
Yeah.
But you got to dig in and roll your sleeves up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Me performing now, I guess another realm of me being bored. I was down in Miami producing, making an album for this artist. His name is Bradley Theodore. He's a painter, designer. I mean, he's technically a genius. He can make anything. He can paint anything. He did a clothing line before that. He did a toy line. Way before, 10, 15 years before NFTs existed, he was doing digital video art. So I go to Miami. Brad, is a collector of musical instruments. Brad has an art studio right in South Beach. He's buying equipment and just calling me up during the pandemic saying, yo, should I get this? Should I get that? Blah, 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 for basically 2 years. Finally, I leave Delaware, go to Miami, and I go there to Brad wants to make an album. So we made an album. It's called the Art Album. Basically, a curated album that sounds like his paintings look. We got all this brand, all analog equipment, blah, 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 blah. I use this program called Reason. And I come from the school of I can make music on anything, which is true. Give me a can, give me something to record on. I'm going to figure out a way to make a record. I've always been like that. I guess from my brother, my musical super crazy brother, always being like, go figure it out. That's where I got that from. I'm not going to help you. Fuck you. Go figure it out. Because it's not about what you're using. It's about how you use what you're using. My rat came together. I was at this synth battle. I have a little box called the Synth Drum Deluge. It's basically an open mic night for kids with modular synths. And, you get 20 minutes to perform, which is funny because it takes most of these kids 20
An
minutes
hour
to
to
30
set up.
minutes to set up. At the end of the night, he's like, yo, could you show us this box? I'm like, no. And so he convinced me to go up there, and I just played a beat, and they all kind of flipped out. And I was like, you guys like this shit? And that's kind of what made me go, maybe I could do this. This looks interesting. And so that's how I started playing. I was doing that for a while. Then I started really aggressively making beats in this box I had.
Hundreds.
Yeah. And I was learning as I go. I actually went with Ant on a cruise ship that he said was for 3 days.
Bullshit, we said 9.
No, you did not. You never said 9. You said it's going to be for the weekend, like 3 days. We're going for 3 days.
You
blah,
were
blah, blah,
already
blah.
in Miami. All you had to do was walk to the end of the water and just jump on a boat. We were
Anyway,
good.
I thought it was going to be 3 days. That 9 days was actually the time I dug in and started really diving in and learning this box. So then I started playing shit for Todd Terry. Todd hits me up and said, all right, Moog, I put you on this bill for the ADE in Amsterdam. He goes, if you don't show up, don't talk to me about this stupid drum machine again. And it was like in 2 weeks. Now I had to get another drum machine and figure out what I'm doing. But I had to go back to Synth Battle to figure out, could I go to Amsterdam and actually play? So I figured out how to mix something from one record to another record. But at that time, I think I had made 200 tracks by the time I went back to
long
Synth
enough
Battle.
for a set. Yeah.
My very first time ever playing out for anybody was opening up for Todd Terry, which was like insane.
Even still, there's a consistent pattern here. I mean, if you think about from the early days where you were and your interest in MIDI and how you're bringing different technologies as they come up and being frustrated but realizing that it's a necessity.
It's so funny that you just said that because my dream always was to, and I said this, I was using the Hit Factory during the Tiffany days. I was using the studio and I had maybe 6 or 7 racks, anvil cases of all hardware synths. I had my Yamaha C something computer, because we were hooked up, with Yamaha, with New Kids somehow. So I got this free computer. I had to learn that out of nowhere. But from Calliope to the Hit Factory to all this thing, my constant goal was, I can't wait till this shit, I could carry all this shit in a bag. I was always dying. And I'm literally, before a laptop was ever conceived, I had this Yamaha computer, which was 20 pounds. It was the size of a mega laptop, but it was it was pre-Mac, because they didn't even have a laptop yet. It was PC. But that was my portable setup. My C1 and my 6 racks and my $12,000 patch bay that my friend Tom Fritzy built for me, and always having a van come pick my shit up from my apartment and roll it to whatever studio.
Just the bay.
Yeah.
Mostly the cables.
Yeah.
No, it was insane.
So this is nothing new then.
No, I was always trying to get down to portability.
Yeah.
That's been, I think, if anything, I've been constantly trying to dial down. And I knew that one day, eventually, I knew it. One day, I'm going to be able to walk around with a bag with a studio in it.
I want to fill in some gaps a little bit. So you had your time throughout the 80s. You were working on some hip hop records. It was a big melting pot, right? When now we flash into 90s, we're starting to get into mid 90s, house, golden era, right? You're probably starting to see a lot of the people explode in club scene, club culture. And then
Reggie, Ronald, Burrell were a part of this label called New Groove, which basically they kind of started.
Yep. Still going strong.
And that's when I was kind of getting out of the pop machine. I started hanging out with them again, and they would tell me about house music, how you could just go make house records and go up the street and get money for it. And that was around 92, 93.
So literally show up at Strictly, here's a record, give me cash.
Before that, I did my very first attempt at a remix. And the very first attempt I ever made at a remix was a record called Pearls by Sade. I was working with this artist named Victor Cook 2 or 3 years before that. I made a big club record with Victor Cook. Me and Roland did a record with Victor called Life Story that kind of blew up in the club world. I mean, it blew up. Actually, we had a label called Hogland, and we were pressing vinyl. We sold 40-something thousand copies of this record.
Damn.
And we thought that record, it was to us, was a total flop. We're 40,000 copies, this is whack. 40,000 copies were pressing vinyl.
Damn, do that now.
Relentlessly pressing. But then my first attempt at a record was 3 years later, the Sade record. My friends told me about this thing called Winter Music Conference. I go down to Winter Music Conference. I took maybe 10 or 15 pieces of this vinyl I made. I went to play it for people, and nobody played my record for a week. Louis, the Kennys, the Rogers, Daryl. I would sit in the club all night waiting for motherfuckers to play the record. Nobody played it. Finally, and went to music conference. They had this thing. The last night was called the Magic Sessions. I go in there, waited there all night, and my friends basically kind of bogarted and got Tony Humphries to play this record that he never heard before. I told him I gave it to an assistant. He never heard the record. My John Robinson, who used to do Kiss FM, he went in there and basically said, Tony, you gotta play this record. He puts the record on, never hearing the record played, and people, by the time the record came around, because it was one verse, I only did one verse, one hook, and I repeated the record. By the time it came around to the second time around, people were starting to realize they knew the record. I don't even think people knew it was Sade, but they knew the song.
Yeah, because this was a bootleg, right?
Bootleg.
Yep.
By the time that record ended, the place, and this was 4:45, 5 a.m. in the morning, of me waiting around since 11 o'clock at night. They played the record, and the place it exploded. And so John's looking at Tony Humphries. Tony Humphries is in there and they're like, one more time. The whole place was, play it again, play it again, play it again. Tony Humphries, I've never seen this done before or ever again. He picked the record up and put it back on. He played the second time, and then after that, my entire remixing career started right then and there.
Wow.
And it was
that's incredible.
It's insane. So that, as far as
Straight
any
out of a
record,
movie.
Yeah.
as far as any record that I personally did, that was my first explosive record ever in '93.
So that was 93. When did you record the Michael Moog show? Because we were just watching before
99.
99?
Yeah. But from 93 to 98, I was in the remixing game. So I started remixing records. I went straight from Miami to Africa. This guy wanted me to do a score. I was still kind of in the pop machine, but this guy from London asked me to go to Africa while he's shooting his film. And when I came back 6 weeks later, that record was blown up on every radio station in London. It was massive. And on all the mix shows in America, I got a cease and desist letter from Sony and the FBI.
That's how you know you're making money.
Yeah.
No, it was insane. Then I got called to Sony Music. Frank Serralo, who was the guy responsible for he was head of A&R for dance. I went there. He put me in a retainer, meaning he gave me a check. It was, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, a retainer. I'm going to send you records and whatever you want to mix, just take the records you want to mix, and we want you to remix.
Damn.
While I was still getting sued by Sony at the same time, and the FBI at the same time, all this was going on. So that record was my very first explosive record. Billboard Records, they had a dance chart in there, I think.
Still do.
Larry Flick was the editor, so it got reviewed everywhere. It was my very first big explosive record ever, was the Sade record.
And then from there, from being basically in the remix lane for like almost a better part of a decade, right?
Almost, yeah.
Go look up Sade Pearl's Philip Damien. It's Philip Damien mix, right?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Did you do any remixes that were under Colombian Drum Cartel or any of that?
Those were records. Those
Right.
were just like pseudonyms.
So
yeah,
all of your remixes were under Philip Damien.
yeah. And then I teamed up with Seven Fisher because we were friends.
Oh, for the technique stuff?
Technique was just me. Seven Fisher and I were Colombian Drum Cartel. And we did another thing called Union. There was a label called Tribal Records. They didn't want the record the way I wanted to do it. No, I took it to every label. Nobody wanted to do it, so I just put it out. Johnny Vicious and I started a label called Calima. Calima is this river in Colombia where apparently Pablo Escobar used to drop off all his dead bodies. So I was like, that was a good name for the label, Calima, Calima Records. I initially did the Colombian Drum Cartel because I was dating this girl who was Colombian. She was a dancer, and I basically made a record for her to kind of do something with.
I know your history really well, and Spencer actually knows a lot of your music as well, too. And clearly we both know you personally. But you dove in to doing almost exclusively like concept albums from like when to when, because like when I first met you, you were working on
The Colombian Drum Cartel was a full concept album.
that was full concept. So
And
basically
since
from
no one
that
got
point,
it, I was like, fuck all of you cornball fucks. But I got everybody, like all my friends that were Latin in the club scene, I got them all to do voiceovers. Like the whole record had a beginning, middle,
we
and
have
end.
the house surrounded.
Yeah, the record had it was a story about people smuggling rhythm
Right.
from one continent to the next. You know, like you had characters, blah, 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 blah. And everybody, like, you're out of your mind. And I was like,
When you were writing those records, what pieces of gear were you using? Like what technologies were you?
that's when I was on 21st and Park. That's when I was building my studio called Big Screen Studios. I was still using my Yamaha CS computer because it was, that computer crashed on me one time in 10 years. It never fucking crashed.
And you would track on that?
Did everything. I was doing all the MIDI sequencing on that.
Yeah.
And I was recording everything from all my rack straight to my ADATs.
Gotcha.
It was insane. My whole thing in my entire life was
Simple,
simple.
effective.
I don't
Sounds
want
like it. Yeah.
I don't want to have to go to the hit factory for 3 days wiring my whole shit up.
I would love to know from your perspective how you define technology's role in your life. You know, like, I mean, is it a tool? Is it a source of inspiration? How does it ebb and flow? You know?
I mean, just from saying everything we've been talking about, I think that my biggest, clearly you can tell that I have massive issues because my only issues are always about, like, I want things to be easier. I can't make music unless, like, I'm in a room that's clean. I can't think unless I have space. It's like I was doing all these shows with Todd for basically a year now. I'm lugging around 3 drum machines, 2 synths, a mixer, my ultimate support stand, a whole case of cables. I'm going to say Ministry of Sound. I arrive at 10 p.m. I have to wire my shit up. Nobody's in the club, and I have to wait till 1 o'clock and 1 a.m. for people to start coming in Ministry. I'm playing for an hour, maybe hour 45 sometimes. I have to break down this entire setup while the next DJ is behind me. So I am setting up and breaking down either during performances. I have to clear my shit out. So in my current situation, once again, it's like, and then you're traveling from airport to airport, one person lugging 3 fucking cases and a suitcase by myself. This shit is insane.
So to give people a context, you told us your story, right? Like we didn't get to all the nuts and bolts, but you've never mentioned DJing. You weren't DJing.
Ever. I've never been a DJ in my life.
I mean, I know that, but I just want to tell the world that.
Never. What I'm doing now is like, it's called live performance. So basically I'm DJing, but using drum machines and samplers and synths. So that's what I'm doing now.
So right now you have a setup that consists of, and I know this well because your passion project's been partly my passion project.
You helped me build my case.
So you have 3 Synthrum Deluges, which are almost like an Ableton.
It's Ableton in a box. It's like Ableton in a physical box.
So it's almost
the size
like you
of
have
an iPad.
3 laptops in front of you, full production suites.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 synths. Like analog synthesizers.
That I could fit into this case because I have tons of synths I keep trying out, figuring out which is going to make the most sense. I have 2 of those. I have a mixer, which everybody comes through that mixer. It's made by Auto Machines, which is the only mixer. I went through 8 mixers this year trying to find...
I've seen them.
Yeah. I went through 8 mixers trying to find one fucking mixer that will just allow you all stereo inputs.
I actually want to know, you're talking about making things easier. Why not just mix one track into another, you know? Like with CDJs. What is it about this live setup that really... I mean, you know...
Because just playing records to me, it's like, just does not do it for me. It's like, it means nothing. Playing that would be like DJing. The world does not need another horrible shit DJ. Like,
and you are a producer. I mean,
yeah.
so...
My first trade is producing.
Right.
But for me, like, that would be so boring, just playing records. Like, it's boring. And the guys that I know do it, I actually know, some of the best guys in the world that do it. Like, I'm not going to try to do what these motherfuckers have been doing for 30, 40 years, and they're actually masters at it. So,
yeah,
like,
it's a little bit... I felt that way too, right? So I got introduced to our group of friends through Todd Terry as well too. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like you said, like I'm going to DJ with Kenny Dope and Junior Sanchez and Roland Clark, and like it was an intimidating thing for me, right? Here's AntLaRock walking into the room, no one fucking knew me. Everybody thought I was 14 and I made EDM. Mm-hmm. So like I had to figure out a way to have a voice in this too. And then when I met you, that was easy because here's somebody else who also plays bass, who also plays keys, who also, you know, could sing if we had to, right? We're the guys that like, you know, Spencer too. It's like, hey, somebody needs the guy to figure out how to put the chords in the track. Somebody needs to figure out how this synth works, how to do this arrangement, how to EQ this vocal. We're the guys who usually get the calls, right? We're the people who like...
If I had a side gig, that's my side gig. My side gig is programming, you know, synth sounds for like the Kenny Dopes, the Todd Terrys, the Junior Sanchez. I mean, I did so much shit with Junior, you know, programming with Kenny, all these guys. They come to me, can you make this sound? Can you replicate this sound? That's my side thing. So for me to be playing live and just playing records and not having access to the parts of the records.
Yeah.
Technically, if anybody wants to know what I'm doing, basically, like, say I have 3 48-track tape machines. What I'm able to do is play 48 tracks of music live. Like I have master tapes and I can play all the parts. I can access.
All the parts are, so you can mix like a bass line from one track cleanly into the percussion of another track.
I have all the parts. And I can play full-blown...
You're producing live,
kind of. I can play full-blown stems live. What I'm doing is the actual stems or real stems, not fake EQ'd stems.
From the source.
From the actual source, I can play these things live and I have access. So if one record, I'm playing like a 24-track stems, and another one, I can mix that one record to a different part. It's a lot. Why am I doing all this? Why am I making things harder for me? I don't know. That's been my entire life of making things way harder than they have to be. I'm the king of making things. I swim uphill, upstream. I never swim downstream.
Well, there's a reason for that. We're both like that.
Because I have issues.
Because we have issues. It's part of it. But like,
Working through it in therapy right now.
as you stay on that bleeding edge of tech, you see what the next door is that's going to open up. We're always prone to push that because we can make better music. We could use technology better, right? We're the people who are going to open ChatGPT to get it to be an assistant for our fucking emails. We're the people that are going to see what Ableton 12.2 could do and be the people who are like, yo, I need this feature in it, right? Like you were like that with Reason. You're like that with the Deluges. You're waiting for the next like firmwares to drop. Like we just want to push it because we know it can make us better artists. And I think you look at our story, mine and Spencer's story, like what we wanted to do for the music industry. We want to make shit better. We see where things are now. We see how we can improve things, and we want to push through that next door, right? Right now we're working on how artists can actually engage better with the people who actually come and show up at their events. If somebody's going to support me and show up at my shows, how could I know that? How could I reward them? It's not through SoundCloud. It's not through how they pay on their debit card. Like we see what doors are open and we're trying to blast through them. I mean, I know you have a million things to add on this, but it's not issues. It's just the innovation that kind of needs to happen to do more of what we want to do. The only reason you ever took the time to say, hey, let me wire 3 deluges together. Let me get 48 channels of ADATs synced up. Like, let me have a portable computer before batteries are even fucking invented, right? It's because we want to push technology forward. We want to make better music in quicker time for more people. That's it.
I don't want to push technology forward. In the case of the Deluge, it only has 2 fucking outputs. So they make this insane box. And it's not like drum machines have not existed for the last 40 years with 8 individual outputs. Yeah. These motherfuckers decide to make this box, which is basically Ableton, with only 2 outputs. Fucking morons. If you ever hear this, people at fucking Synthstrom.
Like, really what the end of the day is, you're trying to get people to dance at a nightclub, right? You want people to move their body. And then a lot of manufacturers, a lot of technology companies, a lot of software developers aren't thinking about the end result, right? And there's been a clear line of the story you've just told. Yeah. It's been, I want people to enjoy my music and dance to it.
Very product-focused thinking.
I just want the shit to sound good. It's a lot.
At the end of the day, tech is just the last tool in our bag
tool
to make this sound good.
It's a tool.
And I think great technology is always going to be something that works backwards from a really great product, you know, how something achieves what you're looking for, you know. So if you want people to dance on the dance floor, if you want people to be more connected and, you know, you're building tech around that, then that's what it should do. And oftentimes it's not that.
Great
which is,
technology
you know,
to me is just making things really simple for creative people. That's why Apple won. Apple won because they made a personal computer easy for any moron on planet Earth to use.
And an iPhone
And
that your mom can use.
Yeah, like that. That's what technology should be, for making things easier for people to use. Like when it comes down to it, simple.
So, with your harnessing of all this technology and your quest to make things simple, what are we looking for from you next?
I think I'm playing Ibiza for a month or 2, starting in August. I'm doing some gigs with Todd Terry and my friend Bart Jacks at Plastica. Keep playing. Because the only way you get good at any of this shit is you got to keep doing it. The only reason that someone like a Louis Vega or Kenny Dope, the reason they're so dope, they've been doing this shit for 30 years, trial and error. And it's so funny. I've been telling these guys about my disasters, and they're like, whatever. Call me back after your 12,000 gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, after your 12,000 gig, like, then can you call me? Because every one of their gigs for thousands of years, there's been some kind of technical fuck up. And the more you play, the more you start figuring out what potholes not to step in anymore. So it's just constant. You got to just keep doing it over and over and over again. So,
I mean, isn't that the truth?
that's with anything.
Anything.
That's with life. Like it's like Groundhog Day every day until you figure it out. Like that's what it is. And as far as technical stuff is concerned, like we were just talking about this. I say this to anybody, anywhere. You could have any piece of equipment. If you learn how to master whatever it is, you could have a Casio CZ1. You could have anything. Any piece of gear, if you get one piece of gear and you master that one gear, you can make anything on it. It does not matter what you have. Anything.
Wise words from Michael Moog, from Philip Damien, from Colombian Drum Cartel. All right, let's do our guest list signature rapid fire questions to wrap up the session. So basically every podcast we do a rapid fire where you got 10 seconds to answer one-liners on what you think, whatever comes straight to your chaotic brain.
Let's go.
What's one song that never leaves your set list or playlist?
Of course, Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to. That's probably my favorite song of all time ever written, times a billion.
Wow. I mean, it's a great record.
I could listen to that song. I've turned all my crew, my kids, everybody onto that song. I still can't figure out how those motherfuckers wrote that song.
All right, one piece of gear or tech you can't live without.
Nothing. They all suck.
I like that one.
Good one.
What's the biggest myth about the music industry?
That you're going to get rich and famous.
I knew you were going to say that one.
I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
I mean, most people are just happy to
Yeah.
make a living in it,
Yeah.
and that's even a long shot.
I wish that were even my goal, to make a living in it. Like, my goal is just, I'm trying to seriously just get these noisy sounds out of my head, out of my head.
So this is therapy.
Yeah.
If you could collaborate with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, Seal has been on my list forever. I've been with people that keep saying they're going to hook me and Seal up forever. It's just, you know, it's always timing.
Yeah.
I like doing more than working with people. I've always liked watching people make records. Mm-hmm. Like, if you asked me if I could have sit in and watch motherfuckers make records, I mean, we'd be here till next fucking century. Like, I like watching the process of people make records.
And then last one, what's one thing that you think music needs right now more than anything?
Just go back to being original. Everybody's fucking, for the last 25 years, trying to do the same thing. And, like, we're so conditioned, you know, but that's human nature.
I think it's so cool, you know, when you get someone on the show who is just so deeply rooted in the evolution of technology and hearing how technology has shaped entire genres. That's, to me, fascinating. Right?
Thank you, guys. That was actually fun.
To sit here with somebody who's walked the walk and seen it through many different generations and decades is it's inspiring.
It absolutely is. And I mean, I think if you're out there, if you're an entrepreneur in the music space, if you're a builder, a technologist, or if you're an artist, whatever it might be, all these stories are out here with the purpose of giving you some context.
And if you're a fan, just know that your favorite artists and software developers and, you know, anybody involved with the music that you listen to, we're working hard to make the experience better for you every day.
I want people to fall in love again on the dance floor. I want everyone to put their fucking phones away.
Thank you again to Michael Moog for joining us. Thank you, Spencer. It was a great conversation, and we look forward to catching you all on the next one.
See you next time.